Hello, this is the student of rhythm driving in my car, so I hope the road noise isn't too much to hear over. Recently watched an interesting video that proposed this thought experiment, which I've thought about before. What religion would I follow if I couldn't, for whatever reason, be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? And more specifically, I suppose, what if the church didn't exist? And that opens up a whole can of worms. I'm going to try to just talk about that off the cuff. Try to get over this perfectionist paralysis that I have. And so I started thinking about that. It's similar to, I believe it was, President Nelson asked us to reflect on where would we be if it weren't for the Book of Mormon. And for one thing, I wouldn't be me. Like, in materialist terms, I wouldn't exist at all. Like, if it weren't for the restoration and the coming forth of the Book of Mormon and the establishment of the church, well, then Utah would not have been settled by the immigrants that it was settled by, and my ancestors wouldn't. I mean, there were some of my ancestors that were in the United States already, but there's others that were converted in Great Britain and Denmark, and they wouldn't have done so. They wouldn't have come over and intermarried in Utah and produced me. So I have to imagine what it would be like to have my consciousness or my ego, my spirit, my inner essence, intelligence housed in a body coming about through a different ancestry. So that's already like a big part of the mental exercise to try to imagine. And so I start imagining in these sort of terms of, well, would there be still the metaphysical reality that I've plighted my troth to, I've accepted and staked my claim on, of there being indeed a God who just hadn't begun the restoration yet? Or do I go to the imagination that there is none, there is no God like that? I mean, as far as I would be concerned, if the restoration hadn't come about, I would be unaware of the theology of the revealed doctrines and teachings that would have given me what knowledge I have of the transcendent supreme being of God as I understand them. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around what that would be, and imagine, where would I live? Where would I be born? Through what of these diverging lines? You might think of the Rush song, "Oh, so many different connections our separate lives might have made." I'm not going to remember the lyrics right. Oh, so many different directions our separate lives might have turned. So, I know I'm not the only one to think about this, and I had a lot of prompting from Neil Peart to think along these lines. I reflect on, I was never easy listening to that song when I was young, and Ghost of a Chance, this line, "I don't believe in destiny or the guiding hand of fate. I don't believe in forever or love as a mystical state. I don't believe in the stars or the planets or angels watching from above, but I believe there's a ghost of a chance we can find someone to love and make it last." Lately I've been thinking a lot about the culture of North America, I guess particularly of the United States, but Peart was Canadian. It's kind of this shared Anglophone North American culture. And I feel this bleak, empty horror of nothingness, of meaninglessness when I contemplate. I guess what Alma, I believe, talks about people who live without God in the world. And okay, yes, there's a lot of people, religious people still in North America that hold tightly to their inherited, probably in some cases converted, connection with the divine, connection with Christ, because I accept that Christ, being mighty to save and in relentless pursuit of us all, he reaches out and touches and makes connections with people who feel after him, as Paul said, right? I don't know if I would have had enough hope or cause to believe that it was worthwhile to try to feel after that connection if it hadn't been for the restoration and the Book of Mormon. I have reached out and made that connection with Jesus and that walk, been walking that path with him, because I believe that there's merit to believing that he exists. The incarnation of God in Christ, the reality of such being, the reality of that incarnation and the resurrection, the atonement and resurrection in a real sense. I have hope in that, and I extended belief in that because of the strength of the Book of Mormon as a reinforcement of that, as a testament of that. If I had only the Bible to go on, with all of the deconstruction and picking apart and analysis and the skepticism and the doubts that have been raised as people have looked closely into these old books, I might have ended up quite similar to somebody like Bart Ehrman. Biblical scholars who find it interesting to look at these old books and the beliefs that people had. I might be in a position somewhat like Camille Paglia, who famously said, "I don't believe in God, but I think God is mankind's greatest idea." And so to find merit, academic merit and intellectual engagement in looking at how people have believed and how people have reached after a sense of transcendence, a sense of purpose beyond just the inevitable decline and fall of us all. And that's what I mean when I say I think about the state of the culture of North America, how it was founded by people who sometimes burned ardently with a zeal for God as they understood. Think about the Puritans, and think about the descendants of the Puritans, how they established this sense of Unitarianism, how the foundations that they laid are occupied by people who don't really believe in much of anything. Maybe they believe in kind of a sense of the human capacity to set up, to progress. Maybe they believe in sort of American classical liberalism. Yay, more power to them. We can continue, even though we don't know what the ultimate end is, we can continue to maintain this system for the benefit of those after us, and give people a comfortable basis in life to try to find out what meaning resonates most strongly with them, and serve these ideals that we kind of intuitively feel are good, even though we can't really point to a good, strong foundation of them. We're just kind of, maybe it is, a wraith, a rumor of a harbor guessed by faith, as Tolkien wrote. There's some of them who have staked their claim, put their allegiance in a different variety of this faith in progress, let's say. People could throw their lot behind progressivism and the faith in progress, which has borne some pretty bitter fruits throughout the past 100 years. And so in just imagining that my spirit, my consciousness occupies a body born, I don't know where, in Denmark, in Great Britain, or in the United States, not in Utah, born somewhere in, it could have been Connecticut, Massachusetts, Tennessee, could have been in a lot of New York. Let's just say I was born in upstate New York, and I enjoyed an upbringing. I'd like to think I have enjoyed some kind of privileged upbringing in a family of Yankee stock, and had the chance to imbibe a goodly education through the institutions of learning in the world, and came to the soul-searching time of adulthood. It's hard for me to imagine that I would have been brought up in a family with very devout faith in much of anything. And now, thinking of where I am now, how my reconversion has refined my personality, has checked my tendencies, the tendencies of my personality, some of which had some expression and went in some directions when I was younger that I have pulled back from. This is a hard mental exercise, but imagining that I've done some of the investigations into different spiritual and religious traditions that I, in fact, have. I know I was very interested in Buddhism for a time. I was interested in just sort of the maybe Universalist, Unitarian, this American, again, Yankee stock. Sorry, I'm distracted because there's a turkey on the road in front of me. I'm waiting for it to get out of the way. This Yankee American sort of romantic, sort of ecumenical, sort of universalist kind of curiosity, like thinking, there's something out there, probably, maybe. Anyway, isn't it wonderful that whatever it is, or somehow there have been all these beautiful expressions. I resonate, my wires hum with beauty when I contemplate these expressions that the human spirit has produced in its hope for the ultimate and the transcendent. And so I could be into something like that. I could have gone into something like, again, American Buddhism, this idea of this pragmatic approach to living life mindfully and with these spiritual disciplines and techniques. I don't really have to put my assent to any sort of dogma. I don't really concern myself with that. It's something like Thoreau aspired to. I can definitely see myself going in a direction like that. Now, I can also imagine myself going in a direction that has a bit more steel and snarl to it than maybe the new agey. So I could have gone kind of in a new agey sort of direction, but I could imagine myself going in a more snarling, more muscular sort of direction. I'm going to have to talk about this, come back. I have to stop now. I'll come back. All right, so hoping to pick up where I left off. So I wonder if I might have gotten into American Satanism if I didn't have the hope that there was really a benevolent God with a purpose and ultimate meaning. Then after that, the thing to do is basically to try to figure out what works for you, right? What resonates with you? What's your scene, man? And I'm just imagining that I would have had the same curiosity. In fact, I imagine I would have been a bit less inhibited in looking into some things. And I might have, I expect I would have looked at, say, I don't remember. There's a couple of these groups, whatever Anton LaVey founded. I might have looked into that, and I might have liked what I saw enough to think this would be something to kind of, put some steel in my spine and make me face the world with like a more of a muscular, assertive attitude, because that's something that I don't naturally have. And I could have maybe thought, well, this would be good for me to cultivate more of like a proactive, assertive, even aggressive. I mean, why not? And do it in a way, find something that people have laid out that is a philosophical system that has some effect of channeling your impulses into a system that has some sense, has some grammar, right? I might have gone that way. I mean, I might have gone, I can easily see myself going full throttle into progressivism, even outright communism. I was, as I considered myself, an anarchist for a while, so I can see myself going into the leftist cause with the fervor that people give to any religion. I mean, it is essentially a religion. It's a spell. It's jealous of people's loyalty. It has its explanation for why the world is how it is. It asks things of people, and that's the thing about it is, you might sit back and look at any system of belief and think, how could people submit themselves to something that asks so much of them? But you something gets its hooks into your heart, and progressive leftist ideology had some significant hooks pretty deep into my heart, and I could have gone along pretty willingly with some demands that it might have made of me, and I would have felt supported in that because I would have been with a group of like-minded people, and as long as I didn't stray outside of the groupthink, then I would have felt like I had a warm place to wait out the impending oblivion. And see, if it weren't for the hope I have, and the reason I have to hope for the ultimate purpose, I mean, I would have figured, yeah, that's basically what everybody's just after. Eventually, we're all just going to disappear. Everything's just going to go to oblivion or cosmic recycling. So all we're just really looking for is just a warm, agreeable place to wait it out until that happens. Yeah, you can exercise your mind and body by finding something to serve, find meaning, a cause to serve, or something to build, or excellence in a craft or a skill or discipline to pursue, and you can get through life without having to stop and probe too deeply about what it's all for. And so I could have maybe just gone along without really pledging my allegiance to much of any kind of belief, other than just kind of an enjoyment of and an appreciation for the achievements of human creativity, human ingenuity, just sort of this appreciation, this wonder at existence that doesn't really look too close. I guess there's kind of a humility in that, right? I just don't know. I'm just glad to be here because I found something that engages me. So I might have gone something like that. But again, I can imagine myself going along with some kind of New Age sort of system or practice or group. And sadly, I can imagine myself becoming an enthusiastic participant in some kind of what you might call cult that would be in that general vicinity, that general framework. I can imagine myself getting enamored of some kind of dogma about spiritual provenance and destiny of humanity, even if it was just something like it could have been a lot of different things that I could have reached and clung to. And I expect that throughout different phases in my life, I might have gone from one to another. And so thinking about what I might have done when I was, in my early adulthood, and I was a lot more zealous in my idealism for wanting the world to be a better place. But you see, would I have gotten to that same kind of idealism that I had in my early adulthood if it hadn't been for my experiences growing up as a member of the church and having that shape and check my natural inclinations? And would I have taken the time that I did to have so much introspection into my natural inclinations as I did? Because I was aware that I had different, the two wolves, right? I was aware that I had different impulses in conflict. More passive cuddly impulse and a more aggressive impulse. So it's really hard trying to engage in this intellectual exercise. I can't let anything be simple anyway. I mean, talk about impulses and predilections I have. I can't just let things be simple. So I can imagine that I would have just been soul searching for a long time, looking around, picking things apart, analyzing, and I might have abidden in a certain place at a certain stage for a while, and I might have if I had found in any sort of spiritual or religious approach the kind of group that I felt connected and accepted in, I might have let that mold and cause me to be completely loyal, to the point of being unquestioningly loyal to a set of doctrines or dogmas. I might have ceased my soul-searching, ravenous, analytical examination of belief systems if I had really felt like I'd found a home, a warm place. Well, this has been an interesting thing to think about, and I've gone on at such a length that it's hard for me to imagine that I can command anybody's patience for much longer than this. Well, this is also an exercise in me just speaking unprompted or unscripted, prompted all right, but unscripted, and hoping that I could speak without too many pauses. So at that point, I will cut this off, and anybody who has listened this far, thank you. Like and subscribe and so on and so forth. I will talk to you later.